The stars were quiet that night. Too quiet. Far above the blue curve of Earth, a single exploration ship drifted through the silence of space. Its name was Artemis 7, and its crew believed they were alone. But silence in space never lasts long. Silence is only the pause before something unknown arrives. Inside the control deck, Captain Rourke leaned forward, his eyes narrowing at the flickering screen. A strange signal had appeared. It was weak, like a heartbeat almost gone, but steady. Not human, not natural. Signal locked, the officer whispered. It's coming from right ahead. The crew expected maybe a lost satellite or a broken probe. But what they found was not a machine. It was a child. A tiny alien girl floated inside a cracked escape pod. Her skin was pale silver, her eyes glowing faintly in the dark, and her thin hands clutched a small cube that pulsed with light. She looked fragile, too fragile to be alive. Yet when the ship's arms brought her inside, her chest rose and fell. She was breathing. The crew gathered around as the medic scanned her. The translator device struggled, broken words spilling into the air. "Little one," the captain said gently. "Who are you? What happened to you?" The alien girl's lips trembled. She spoke only one word, but it froze the entire room. "Dragon!" The translator hissed and buzzed, trying to repeat the word. Again it came, broken but clear. "Gun." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. No one spoke. Dragons belonged to myths, not to the cold emptiness of space, but in her voice there was no myth, only fear. The captain knelt beside her. "What dragon? Where is it?" The girl's small hands tightened around the glowing cube. Her eyes filled with tears. "It comes." Before anyone could ask more, the Artemis 7 shuddered. Alarms screamed. Something massive was moving outside. The crew rushed to the viewing window. At first they saw only shadows stretching across the stars. Then, slowly, the stars themselves disappeared. A vast shape blocked them out. Bigger than any ship. Bigger than any station. Its outline rippled like smoke, like wings unfolding across the void. The alien girl whimpered, hiding her face. Her whisper barely carried through the translator. "It followed me." The captain's voice turned hard. "Shields up, weapons ready." But deep inside, every soul aboard knew the truth. They were staring at something beyond human knowledge. A predator so large, so ancient, it made their most powerful ships feel like insects. The sensors cracked with static. Energy readings spiked. The dragon, if that was truly what it was, opened a single burning eye. The red glow washed over the Artemis 7, and for a heartbeat, every human inside felt it looking directly into them, peeling away courage, testing their fear. The girl clutched the cube tighter, shaking. "It eats worlds." Her words were simple, but they carried the weight of truth. She was not lying. Her people had been destroyed. And now, the same monster floated outside their fragile ship, silent, waiting. The captain's jaw tightened. He would not show fear to his crew. Yet in his chest, his heart pounded like a drum. The girl looked at him then, with wide glowing eyes full of sorrow and warning. "Run, please." But before they could even decide, the dragon's shadow moved. Again. The stars behind it bent as if space itself was folding under its presence. The crew held their breath. Weapons hummed. Shields burned faintly blue, yet the dragon did not attack. Not yet. It simply watched. And sometimes being watched is worse than being struck. Minutes stretched into eternity. No one dared blink. No one dared breathe too loud. Finally, the alien girl whispered a final sentence that sent chills through every human spine. "It will not stop until Earth is gone." The crew turned toward their homeworld, a small blue jewel hanging in the distance. For the first time in history, Earth was not safe. Humanity was not alone. And in the darkness of space, something ancient had set its eyes upon them. The silence broke. The dragon roared. It was not a sound, but a vibration that shook the ship's walls, rattled bones, and filled minds with terror. Screens cracked. Lights flickered. The girl screamed. The crew clutched their stations as the great shadow moved. Closer, wings stretching wide as if to embrace the planet itself. The captain gritted his teeth. He had to choose. Fight or flee. But either way, the dragon had found them, and nothing would ever be the same. The storm of silence after the dragon's roar left the crew shaken. For long minutes the Artemis 7 floated in the void, trembling from the echo of that terrible sound. No one spoke. No one moved. Finally, the monster faded into the distance, slipping back into the sea of stars like a shadow retreating into the dark. But the fear it left behind stayed heavy in every chest. In the medical bay, the alien girl lay weakly on a cot. Her silver skin gleamed faintly under the lights, and her glowing eyes stared at the ceiling as though seeing ghosts no one else could see. Captain Rourke entered, boots heavy on the steel floor. He had faced pirates, smugglers, even strange storms of radiation in deep space. But never this. Never a creature that could darken the stars. The translator device buzzed softly, picking up her whisper. "You should not have found me." The captain frowned. "We couldn't just leave you out. There. You would have died." Her eyes turned toward him, glowing like two moons. "Better me than your world." A silence stretched. The medic shifted uncomfortably. The captain crossed his arms. "You said it eats worlds, explain." Her hands trembled around the cube she carried. Its surface shimmered with shifting light, symbols dancing across it like living script. She pulled it close to her chest as if it were her last piece of safety. "It came to my home," she said softly. "We called it the Endless Maw, a beast with wings of shadow. We thought it was only a legend, a story to frighten children. But legends are only truths too old to remember." Her voice broke, and for a moment, she was not an alien but only a child, scared, alone, and small. The crew listened in silence. My people had fleets. We had weapons that lit up the sky. But nothing mattered. The maw, the dragon, swallowed our ships like fire swallows paper. My father told me to run. My mother placed this cube in my hands. They said it would keep me safe. Then, her voice cracked and tears shimmered in her silver eyes. Everything burned. The captain clenched his fists. He had heard stories of wars, of planets lost to hunger and greed. But this was different. This was not war. It was annihilation. The girl's voice grew faint. "I floated in the dark for days, maybe weeks. I thought I was alone forever, but it followed me. It always follows. It smells life. It hungers for it." The medic whispered, "And now it's here." The captain stepped closer. "What is that? Cube? Why is it so important?" She looked down at it, hesitating. The cube pulsed as though alive. "It is a memory," she whispered. "The last song of my people. Their voices, their knowledge, their courage. All inside. My parents gave it to me so our story would not vanish, but the dragon wants it too. It destroys not only bodies, but history, memory, hope." The captain studied her closely. She was just a child, yet she carried the weight of an entire world on her small shoulders. A last ember of a civilization turned to ash. Suddenly, the ship shook again. Alarms blared. The crew froze, fear rising like a tide. But it wasn't the dragon this time. A human warship had arrived. The Vanguard, one of Earth's pride vessels, loomed beside them. Its captain's voice rang through comms. "Artemis 7, report. We detected an unknown energy surge. What have you found?" The crew exchanged glances. If they revealed the girl, the brass might see her as a threat, or worse, as a weapon. Rourke turned to her. "If we tell them, they'll take you away. You'll be just another specimen in a lab. Is that what you want?" Her glowing eyes widened, shaking her head fiercely. "No, please, you don't understand. The more people know of me, the more danger they bring upon themselves. The dragon, it hunts. If Earth believes I am safe, it will come. It will come with fire and death. Her words chilled the room. For a long moment, the captain said nothing. Then he muttered into the comm, "Just a malfunction in our sensors. No threat detected. We'll return for maintenance." The Vanguard paused, then acknowledged. Within moments, the warship faded into the distance, leaving the Artemis 7 alone once more. The crew looked at their captain. Some looked relieved, others doubtful, but no one argued. The girl sat up weakly, clutching the cube tighter. "You risked your world to protect me." Rourke met her gaze. "We don't abandon children. Not human, not alien, not ever." For the first time, a faint smile touched her lips. But it was a sad smile, heavy with the weight of what she knew. "You are brave," she whispered. "But bravery may not be enough. My people had courage too. And now, they are only echoes." Her words hung in the air like a shadow. Outside the window, stars glittered cold and distant. Somewhere beyond them, hidden in the folds of space, the dragon stirred again. The girl's secret was clear now. She was not just a survivor, she was a warning, and Earth had only just stepped into the monster's sight. Back on Earth, the news never reached the public. Official reports said nothing about shadows in space or alien children drifting in escape pods. The incident was locked inside the highest levels of command. But secrets never stay buried long, especially when fear is involved. In the underground chambers of Earth's Defense Council, voices clashed like swords. Generals, scientists, politicians, they all gathered, each demanding answers. "An alien child?" one general barked, slamming his hand on the table. "You expect us to believe that a child carries knowledge of some galactic monster?" The lead scientist adjusted her glasses, pushing forward blurry images from the Artemis 7. "The readings don't lie. The energy surge nearly tore our sensors apart. Something massive was out there. Something that should not exist." Another voice rose, sharp and cynical. "Or it was just a sensor malfunction. You people are letting fairy tales guide military strategy. Dragons in space, what's next? Ghosts in the asteroid belt?" The room erupted into argument. Some laughed, some shouted, but not all dismissed it. A few sat silent, unease etched into their faces. Captain Rourke stood at the far end, his arms crossed tightly. He had sworn to keep the girl safe, but he also knew Earth was standing blind at the edge of a storm. Finally he spoke, his voice cutting through the noise. "I saw it. My crew saw it. The child didn't invent the fear in our bones. It was real. It's coming. If you refuse to believe, then you are preparing for extinction." The chamber fell into heavy silence. A politician sneered. "And what do you suggest? That we mobilize half our fleet on the words of a frightened child?" Rourke leaned forward, his voice a growl. "On the words of a survivor." The council split in two that night. Half demanded calm, half whispered of preparations. Humanity stood at a crossroads, denial or defense. In secret hangars across the planet, engineers worked in silence. Massive ships floated in dry docks, half finished, their hulls glowing under construction lights. Weapons that had been mothballed were dragged out of storage. Scientists studied the alien cube, its shifting symbols beyond human understanding. Every test hinted at something greater, an ancient record, perhaps even technology, but the girl refused to let it out of her hands. Meanwhile, in orbit above Earth, pilots trained endlessly. They flew simulations of impossible battles, swarms of fighters against a shadow bigger than mountains. None of the simulations ended well. Still, they flew again and again, because humanity never stopped trying, even when the odds were death itself. The alien girl watched from the sidelines. Her name, finally shared, was Lyra. She wandered the hangars quietly, her small figure almost ghost-like among towering ships and rushing engineers. Sometimes she touched the metal walls, as though testing their strength. Other times, she simply stood at windows staring at the stars. One evening, a young pilot approached her. "They say you've seen it," he whispered, unsure if the translator would even work. She nodded slowly. Do we even stand a chance? His voice trembled despite the steel of his uniform. Lyra looked at him, her glowing eyes reflecting the faint hope hidden in his question. She hesitated, then whispered, My people had power, but they did not have what you have. What's that? He asked. Her lips curved in the faintest, saddest smile. You fight for each other. But not everyone shared her belief. In hidden corners of the council, plans were drawn that had nothing to do with defense. Some whispered that if the dragon wanted the girl, perhaps handing her over would spare Earth. A cruel bargain, but one that desperate men might consider. Rourke discovered whispers of this betrayal when he returned from orbit. He stormed into the council chambers, rage burning in his chest. You would sacrifice a child? You think feeding it one life will save billions? No. It will never stop. Once it tastes Earth, it will come again and again until nothing remains. The arguments grew harsher. Distrust spread. While scientists and soldiers built defenses, others played politics, wasting precious time. And above them all, in the black sea of stars, the dragon stirred. Not yet near enough to be seen, but close enough that its presence pressed on Lyra's heart like a weight. She woke in the night screaming, whispering words no translator could carry. On the 50th day since her rescue, alarms shook Earth's orbital network. A satellite vanished, consumed in a burst of static, then another. One by one, their eyes in the sky were going blind. Panic rippled through command. Some shouted for mobilization, others clung to denial. But the evidence was clear. Something vast was moving closer. Rourke stood on the deck of his ship, watching the planet below. His crew gathered behind him, eyes hard, jaws set. They had seen the shadow before. They knew what was coming, and Lyra, clutching her glowing cube, whispered in a trembling voice, It has found you. The stars above Earth shimmered as if trembling. At first, astronomers thought it was a distortion in their sensors, some glitch, caused by radiation storms. But then the trembling grew stronger. Entire constellations began to fade from sight. Not because the stars were gone, but because something vast had eclipsed them. It was here. The first transmission came from an orbital station. The voice of the operator was sharp with panic, cut off by static halfway through. My God, it's bigger than... The signal died. The station was gone. Within minutes, the skies above Earth erupted in alarms. Civilian networks were silenced, military satellites screamed warnings. And in the dark, stretching across the heavens, came the shadow, the dragon. It drifted silently, yet every sensor shrieked with impossible readings. Its wings, if they could be called wings, stretched wider than continents, rippling like living storms. Its body was not solid, not flesh as humans understood, but shifting scales of light and shadow, bending gravity itself around its form, and its eyes, two burning suns fixed upon the blue planet below. In the underground council chamber, leaders froze before the live feed. No more debate, no more denial. The monster was real. On the decks of warships, soldiers gripped controls, with white knuckles. Pilots checked weapons with shaking hands. The silence before battle pressed against their ears like a scream waiting to be born. Then, without warning, the dragon roared. It was not sound. It was vibration. Every ship's hull trembled. Every human heart skipped in terror. Lights flickered across cities on Earth as power grids shook under the resonance. Entire systems felt as if they were being pulled into its breath. On the bridge of Artemis 7, Captain Rourke braced against the railing, teeth clenched. He had seen the shadow before, but this was its full glory, its full horror. Lyra clutched her cube, her small body shaking violently. Her glowing eyes overflowed with tears. It came for me, but now it sees all of you. The dragon moved. Slowly, deliberately, it reached one massive claw across the void. Space itself rippled. Satellites cracked into dust. A human destroyer, caught in the sweep, was torn apart like paper, vanishing in a silent explosion of fire and fragments. The first human response came like thunder. Fleets launched from orbit, squadrons of fighters streaking across the darkness. Rail cannons fired, their blasts lighting the heavens. Missiles screamed toward the beast. For a heartbeat, hope flickered. The sky was alive with fire. Humanity was striking back, but the dragon only watched. Its wings rippled once, and the storm of human weapons dissolved into sparks. Missiles vanished. Rail slugs melted into light. Fighters spun helplessly as controls fried. One after another, pilots screamed their last breaths into radios before vanishing in fire. The battle had begun and humanity was already breaking. Yet even in despair, courage flared. The Vanguard, Earth's pride warship, hurled itself directly into the dragon's path. Its commander's voice rang across open comms for all fleets to hear. For Earth, for humanity, we will not bow. The Vanguard's cannons blazed, a storm of fire that lit the shadowed void. Its engines burned hotter than ever before, driving the ship into impossible speeds. The dragon turned its burning eyes upon it. For the first time, it moved with intent. Its jaw opened, revealing a darkness deeper than night. A beam of raw void erupted outward, a torrent that swallowed stars. The Vanguard disappeared in a single breath. Millions on Earth watched live as their strongest warship became nothing more than ash scattered into space. Silence followed. Silence so heavy it seemed the world itself held its breath. In the hangars below, young pilots prepared to launch again, even knowing their chances. Engineers prayed over machines as though prayers could shield metal. Civilians stared at the skies, waiting for death to rain down. Lyra, shaking, whispered through her tears, "This is how it ends. This is how it always ends." But Captain Rourke grabbed her shoulders, forcing her to look into his eyes. His voice was steady, burning with something stronger than fear. "No, not this time. You said your people fought with power, but they didn't have what we have. Look at them, Lyra. Look." Through the windows, squadrons of human fighters launched once more. Pilots who knew they would not return yet went anyway. Soldiers on Earth's surface loaded weapons, prepared to fight even if the dragon landed. Engineers screamed for power, reroutes to keep weapons online even as systems burned. "Do you see it?" Rourke demanded. Lyra's lips trembled. "They keep fighting. That's humanity," Rourke growled. "We don't stop, we don't run. We fight for each other even when there's no hope. That's our power." The girl's tears slowed. For the first time, something new flickered in her glowing eyes. Not despair, but wonder. Outside, the dragon's wings spread wider, casting Earth in shadow. It lowered its massive head, opening its jaws once more. The final blow was coming, and yet, humanity stood. From orbit to ground, from soldier to civilian, they raised weapons, their voices carried across comms in one defiant roar. For Earth, the dragon had arrived, and humanity would answer. The dragon's roar still echoed across the void, rattling every ship and every soul. Whole squadrons had been erased. The Vanguard, Earth's strongest warship, was nothing more than drifting embers. Hope itself seemed ready to break, and yet humanity did not stop. In orbit, battered ships regrouped. Their captains barked orders through broken comms, their voices strained but unyielding. On the ground, soldiers rushed into launch bays, readying weapons that had never been tested in real combat. Engineers worked feverishly, hands blackened, with grease, sweat dripping as they rewired fried circuits with nothing but stubborn will. For every ship destroyed, another pilot strapped themselves into a cockpit. For every soldier lost, another stepped forward. The world was shaking, but its people refused to fall. On Artemis 7, Lyra watched through the viewport, her small hands gripping the glowing cube tightly. Her silver eyes reflected streaks of fire as fighters hurled themselves toward the impossible shadow. "They know they will die," she whispered. Her voice trembled with disbelief. "Why do they still fight?" Captain Rourke stood beside her, gaze fixed on the chaos outside. "Because if we don't fight, we've already lost. Courage isn't about living, Lyra. It's about standing. When you're afraid, even if you fall, someone else will rise in your place. She shook her head, tears sliding down her cheeks. My people had weapons, we had strength, but we did not. Her voice faltered. We did not have this. The captain's jaw tightened. That's humanity's gift. We fight for each other, always. In orbit, a squadron of fighters broke formation. Their leader, a young pilot with nothing but fire in his veins, opened a final broadcast across the channels. My name is Elias Cade. I'm just one man, but I'm not alone. To every pilot out there, don't think about the dragon. Think about the people waiting down there. Your families, your children. Humanity is behind us. Let's make them proud. His squadron roared in unison, voices rising like a war cry. Then they dove headfirst into the storm. The dragon turned its burning eyes upon them. Its wings rippled, and reality itself bent. Some fighters were torn apart instantly, but others, against all odds, slipped through the distortion and fired their weapons. Rail rounds slammed into the beast's scales. They did little damage, but for the first time the dragon flinched. It could bleed, and that tiny, fleeting reaction sparked a wildfire of hope. On Earth, billions watched the battle unfold on hidden feeds that leaked past government walls. Fear was everywhere, but so was defiance. Families gathered in shelters, whispering prayers. Scientists and universities offered calculations to the military, volunteering their minds as weapons. Civilians rushed to donate blood, food, and supplies to soldiers heading for space. No one was safe. But no one was giving up. An old engineer, half blind from years in dim factories, stood before a failing reactor and muttered to his team. We've got one shot before this core dies. If it blows, we'll go with it. But we'll give them power as long as we can. His team answered with weary grins. Then let's give Earth everything. Hands blistered, lungs aching from smoke, they pushed the failing machine until it screamed. But it kept running. And that power surged into the cannons of orbiting ships, letting them fire once more. Lyra watched it all from the Artemis 7. Her small chest rose and fell with heavy breaths, each act of sacrifice and defiance, shaking her heart. She saw pilots choosing death to protect strangers. She saw engineers giving their last strength to keep others fighting. She saw humanity standing shoulder to shoulder, even in the face of annihilation. Her people had fought with strength, but they had fought alone. Humans fought with something different. Together. The cube in her hands pulsed brighter, responding to her racing heartbeat. She stared at it in shock. It's reacting. What is it? Rourke asked. Her voice trembled. My parents said it held memory, but maybe it holds more. It responds to courage, to hope. The cube's light spread across her arms, wrapping her in faint energy. She gasped as warmth filled her chest. It's awakening. Rourke's eyes narrowed. Then hold on to that, because we're going to need it. The dragon, enraged by resistance, unleashed another roar that bent the stars themselves. A massive fleet shattered, debris raining like meteors. Earth's orbit burned with wreckage. But through the fire, voices still rose. Pilots screaming defiance into their radios. Soldiers rallying their squads. Engineers refusing to let the lights go dark. Ordinary humans proving that even when fear consumed them, courage still burned brighter. Lyra pressed her glowing cube to her chest, whispering words in her lost language. She felt the voices of her people inside, echoes of a dead world, and, for the first time, they did not feel alone. Humanity's courage had awakened them. Rourke placed a hand on her shoulder. This fight isn't over. Not yet. Outside, humanity was battered, bloodied, and breaking, but it was still standing. And for the first time in her life, Lyra believed standing might be enough. The skies above Earth burned. Debris from shattered fleets rained through orbit, glowing like falling stars. Whole cities on the surface stared upward, watching the heavens tear apart. For many, it looked like the end of the world. For others, it looked like a challenge. The dragon loomed over the planet now, its vast wings blotting out half the stars. Each beat of its shadow rippled gravity, bending oceans and shaking mountains. Humanity had faced storms, plagues, wars, but nothing like this, and still they stood. On the bridge of Artemis 7, Captain Rourke stared at the monster filling his screens. His crew, exhausted and bruised, looked to him for orders. His jaw tightened. Tell every ship, tell every squadron. This is it. We fight here, or there won't be a tomorrow. The message carried across what remained of the fleet. Fractured. Squadrons, battered warships, even damaged freighters all answered. Not because they thought they could win, but because they refused to surrender their home. In the hangars below, pilots sealed their helmets. Soldiers kissed tokens from families they might never see again. Engineers strapped down burning cores with their own hands, knowing the next blast might end them. Every corner of humanity rose with one voice, carried across the comms. For Earth, the final stand had begun. The dragon moved first. Its colossal form descended, jaws opening wide. A beam of void erupted, tearing through space like a blade. A cluster of human ships disintegrated instantly, their death flames lighting the black. But instead of retreating, more ships charged forward. Fighters weaved between the waves of distortion, cannons firing, missiles screaming. One destroyer rammed itself directly into the beast's flank, detonating its core in a blinding explosion. The dragon roared, twisting in pain. For the first time, its vast body staggered. "Did you see that?" a pilot shouted across comms. It felt it. Cheers erupted through battered radios. Humanity had made the monster bleed. On Earth's surface, ground batteries powered up, weapons designed only in theory. Massive rail cannons fired from mountain ranges, their rounds streaking into the atmosphere before slamming into the beast above. The sky lit up with trails of fire. Civilians, too, joined the stand. Millions gathered in shelters, not with silence but with voices. Across the world, cities erupted in chants broadcast into the sky. Defiance, songs, prayers. The sound rose together, carried by countless mouths into the void. And Lyra, clutching her glowing cube aboard Artemis 7, felt it. The cube pulsed brighter than ever before, symbols spiraled, unfolding like wings of light. The voices inside, echoes of her lost people, stirred. But they were not alone. The cube now pulsed with human voices too, resonating with their courage, feeding on their defiance. "It's responding," Lyra gasped. Her small frame shook as energy flowed through her. "It feels them. It feels all of you." Captain Rourke turned, eyes fierce. "Can you use it?" She hesitated, fear trembling in her lips. "If I open it fully, I don't know if I can survive it." Rourke gripped her shoulders. "Listen to me. You're not alone anymore. We'll carry it with you. Together." Outside, the dragon unleashed another wave of destruction. Entire fleets crumbled. Yet in their wake, more humans rose. Squadrons split into smaller groups, weaving impossible maneuvers to distract the beast. Engineers detonated failing reactors to blind its eyes. Every second they stole was another second Earth lived. The dragon grew furious. It opened both jaws, summoning a void storm strong enough to shatter continents. The sky boiled with light. But in that moment, Lyra's cube ignited. A beam of radiant energy burst forth, not of destruction, but of memory and will. The voices of her people echoed through the void, blending with the courage of humanity. It was not a weapon forged of steel or fire, it was hope, magnified into light. The dragon recoiled, its void storm collapsing. Its body twisted in pain as the light burned against its shadow. Across the comms, humans saw the chance. "Now, hit it now." Every surviving ship, every cannon, every fighter unleashed its fury. Missiles streaked, cannons blazed, rail rounds tore through the dark. The dragon roared in agony as fire and light engulfed its form. Lyra collapsed, her small body trembling, but the cube still pulsed in her hands. Her eyes glowed brighter than ever before, filled with both sorrow and fire. "We cannot stop and keep pushing together." Rourke turned to his crew. You heard her, don't stop. The humans roared across every comm, every channel, their voices a storm louder than fear. The dragon lashed out, wings tearing through fleets, claws ripping apart stations. But humanity did not bow. For every ship destroyed, another charged. For every fighter lost, another dove into the fire. This was not war anymore. This was defiance made flesh. And in that defiance, the impossible happened. The dragon faltered. Its colossal body staggered under the storm of fire and light. Its roar broke not in triumph but in pain. For the first time, it looked less like an invincible god of death and more like a beast struggling to endure. On Earth, billions watching lifted their voices in unison, chanting, crying, screaming to the heavens. Humanity itself became a weapon, each force of unity, courage and will that refused to break. Lyra's cube flared one last time, sending shockwaves of radiant energy through the battlefield. The dragon reeled, wings collapsing inward, its burning eyes flickering with doubt. Captain Rourke's voice thundered across the fleet. This is humanity's stand. For Earth, for all of us. And the dragon, the eater of worlds, found itself drowning not in darkness but in light. The battlefield above Earth was fire and ruin. Half the fleet was gone. Stations burned in silence. The sky itself seemed torn apart by the dragon's wings. Yet humanity still fought. Broken ships rammed its claws. Pilots hurled themselves into impossible dives. From the ground, cannons still thundered. And Lyra's cube blazed like a star. Her small body shook violently as energy poured through her veins, light spreading across her skin like fire dancing on silver. She clutched the cube with both hands, her eyes glowing brighter than the stars outside. It's not enough, she whispered, voice raw. Even with this, it will survive. It always survives. Captain Rourke knelt beside her, his face hardened but steady. Then we'll give it something it's never seen before. Lyra's breath caught. What is that? Rourke looked out at the burning skies, at ships still fighting even as they died, at voices still shouting across comms though no one could hear them. Us, humanity. We don't stop. We don't give in. And we don't let each other fall alone. The dragon roared, its massive body pulling itself free of the light, its burning eyes locked onto Earth. It opened its jaws wide, shadows spiraling into a storm big enough to swallow oceans. But before it could strike, Lyra stood. Her small form glowed, lifted by the cube's radiant energy. Light swirled around, her like wings of flame. She rose above the deck of the Artemis 7, her voice trembling but fierce. My people could not stop it, but your courage, your fire, has awakened something. Together, we can end it. Her body arched, and the cube split open, unfolding into 1,000 shards of light. Each shard carried memory, voices, strength, echoes of her people blended, now with the unbreakable will of humanity. The shards shot outward, embedding into ships, into weapons, into soldiers themselves. Pilots gasped as their cockpits filled with light. Engineers felt their failing machines surge with impossible power. Ordinary soldiers saw their rifles glow, steady in their shaking hands. For the first time, humanity and Lyra's lost people fought as one. The dragon unleashed its storm. A wave of shadow tore across the battlefield. Entire fleets should have collapsed. But they didn't. The shards flared brighter, shielding ships, empowering weapons. Fighters that should have melted pushed through. Cannons that had no energy roared, again. Humanity, merged with the memory of another race, defied the impossible. The dragon shrieked in rage. Its wings tore through orbit, but every strike was met with a blaze of light. Humanity's unity, amplified through Lyra's cube, was holding. And now came the final blow. Rourke! Lyra cried, her voice echoing with 1,000 voices inside it. It must be struck at the core, its heart of shadow. That's the only way. The captain turned to his crew. Then we make a path. Every ship, every fighter, drive it open. Across comms, the order spread like wildfire. Humanity answered with one voice. Squadrons dove, dragging the dragon's claws away. Warships rammed into its wings, tearing rents of fire in the shadows. Ground cannons fired non-stop, forcing the beast to twist and recoil. Bit by bit, they opened its chest, revealing a core of burning void, pulsing like a dark sun. The dragon sensed the danger. Its roar shook the skies, its fury drowning the battlefield. But it was too late. Lyra floated higher, her body surrounded by light so bright it burned the air. Her small voice, amplified by countless echoes, rang across every channel. For my people, for yours, for every voice it silenced. She clasped the cube, now blazing like a newborn star, and hurled herself toward the dragon's core. The beast struck, claws sweeping, but ships dove into its path, sacrificing themselves to shield her. Fighters detonated around its jaws, blinding it for one heartbeat. And in that heartbeat, Lyra pierced through a streak of radiant fire. She slammed the cube into the dragon's core. A silence deeper than space itself followed. Then light exploded. The dragon's body convulsed, shadows ripping apart like torn fabric. Its wings folded inward. Its burning eyes flickered and died. The void itself screamed as the monster unraveled. And then, nothing. The dragon was gone. Silence fell across the battlefield. Ships drifted, smoking but alive. Soldiers stared in shock. On Earth, billions who had braced for annihilation now wept with disbelief. The impossible had happened. Humanity had won. On the shattered bridge of Artemis 7, Captain Rourke staggered to his feet, scanning the sky. Lyra? For a long moment, there was no answer. Then, through the smoke, a small figure appeared. Lyra floated gently, her silver skin dim, the cube's shards slowly fading into dust around her. She landed softly, collapsing into Rourke's arms. "You did it," he whispered. Her eyes flickered open, weak but filled with peace. "No, we did. Humanity gave me something my people never had. Hope." Her small hand clutched his tightly. "Promise me. You'll carry it forward. Never stop fighting for each other." Rourke's voice cracked as he nodded. "I promise." Her lips curved in the faintest smile. Then, the dragon will never win. The cube's final light faded, scattering into the stars. But in every human heart, a new fire had been lit. And so, when history remembered the battle, it was not the death of the dragon they spoke of most. It was how humanity stood together. How ordinary men and women became giants. How courage turned fear into victory. And how one tiny alien girl, carrying the echoes of a lost world, found a new family among humans, and helped them prove to the universe that humanity's courage changes everything.